I'm Jess Coburn, CEO of Applied Innovations, and today I have with me Nathalie. Natalie's a member of the Applied Innovations teams, and she's been a part of the company for, I don't know, about a decade now, right, Nathalie?
Yeah, 11 years.
Yeah. So Nathalie, over that time, has had a number of roles within the company. Most recently, her responsibilities has been around assisting with our cybersecurity platform, helping to identify what we're doing there. She's really been a leader, and her experience and expertise there has really shown over the past couple of years. But she also manages the support team. And that's why I wanted to have the conversation with Nathalie, is because she has experience on a company that's going to go from being a classic in-office company to a company of remote workers. And as many of the businesses today are struggling with that decision and how to go about that, I thought Nathalie's experience and expertise would be fantastic for this. Nathalie, did I sum it up well?
Yes, thank you for having me today.
All right, fantastic. So Nathalie, we made the transition from an office to a remote work staff fairly easily, but we had an advantage because we were able to plan and do that over time, right?
Yeah.
For a business, though, that isn't able to plan, what do you think is going to be their number one challenge?
Well, once they get the technical things worked out in terms of how their employees are going to connect, if it's through a VPN or through some sort of remote platform or virtual desktop type of situation, I think it's going to be a big change for everyone all at once, just to lose that communication that they had in the office, where you can just look over your cubicle or just walk over to someone's desk and ask them a question or share some information. And now it's all going to be through some sort of video streaming messaging type application, and maybe not everyone's used to communicating that way.
Yeah, for us it wasn't difficult though, right? Because even though we were in the same office and we were connected to each other on the same cubicle, we had been early adopters of Teams and chat and messaging apps like that, we found that we defaulted to that anyway, that we weren't communicating, right?
Right. We used to, we got lazy. Instead of walking over someone's desk, we did just send them a message back and forth a lot of the time. So we did, before we even made the transition to remote, we were already kind of used to that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of businesses that have adopted instant messaging like Slack and Teams, though, they're probably going to have a jump on the companies that haven't. The nice thing about Teams, and I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but Teams has made themselves available for 6 months for free for all businesses, as have most of the other applications. I did want to mention that Applied Innovations, and this will be the only plug that I make, Applied Innovations has built out a remote worker resource guide. You can get it at appliedi.net/COVID-19 to make it real easy for you, just COVID-19. And we're adding to that every single day with a bunch of services, documents, plans, resources that businesses and employees can leverage as they're making this move. One of those that was shared with me today that I plan to offer is a telecommuting policy for businesses that are trying to adopt this in an emergency setting. I had a HR expert send me a bunch of documents that she wanted us to share. She's extremely busy today and didn't have time, pardon me, to come on a cyber chat, but she did want to share those resources. Nathalie, when businesses are going remote, they're opening up a door to their network. And that door can let them in and let them out, but it can also let in hackers and let their information out. What should they be doing?
So, they need to think about security differently. In a typical office environment or work environment, you're protected. You have a lot of protections that are just built in a way. You have firewalls. You have, intrusion prevention systems. You have enterprise level antivirus or anti-malware. When someone's working from their own home computer, that's really the challenge. First of all, everyone's using something different. Hopefully everyone's at least using something, but, you don't know how well they're maintaining their computer. Are there Windows updates, security updates, or is that all up to date? What is there? Are their AV signatures even up to date? Do they even have AV installed? So there's that definitely as a concern, especially if you're taking the route where you're using a VPN to connect to your office, because that's just a direct connection from your computer to the office. So if you get infected, you can easily infect the entire network.
So a recommendation would be ensure that both ends, that whatever these endpoints are that they're connecting to their network, that it's secure first before they ever connect.
Yes, and there's different ways of doing that. So it depends on what the current infrastructure is like. It's kind of on a case by case basis, but definitely something that's going to make sure that the computer you're connecting from at least has all that in place. Yeah, that would be my recommendation.
Good. Now, a lot of these companies probably already adopt email solutions and stuff like that. I know that we're big proponents for multi-factor authentication. That would also be a recommendation for them, right?
More than ever, more than ever, because now they're more susceptible to being phished. Even, not only from these coronavirus emails, people get panicky, they get an email from someone about some important news, they might just click on it without thinking. But even like the census is going around now, and I've been hearing about scams relating to that. Security training, awareness training, I think is also just as important, if not more than it ever was, so that people can keep apprised of the current scams going around.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that, but you're right. The hackers like to strike when people are preoccupied, right? They like to strike on a weekend over a holiday when people aren't looking, when people aren't away. So right now, everybody's so busy and focused over here to the right that they're not paying attention to what's going on the left, and they're quick to take that opportunity and strike. What about, well, what else is there? Let's see.
So basically, in terms of what they can do to protect themselves, it depends on the business, because some businesses might already have certain infrastructure they could take advantage of. But for example, now that someone's using their own computer or their own laptop, they're probably going to have sensitive information now at home on their personal computer that they didn't have before. So if that computer becomes, not just compromised, what if it gets stolen? Even if it's a laptop or desktop, it might get stolen. Usually, for home use, people don't usually encrypt their computers, so that data is going to be, accessible to anybody. Also, a lot of families share a computer, so you might have your kids using the same computer. What are they installing? What are they clicking on? In an office environment, you usually have to get permission and have someone come in to install additional software, whereas at home, you can't really control what someone's installing on your computer, and it could be malware or spyware.
Yeah, so they really need to tighten up things at home with their home computers before they start to connect to the corporate resources.
Absolutely.
That's a good point. Let's take a step back and talk about going remote. When I remote, I have a home office. I think you have a home office, although it looks like you might have a space station.
Yes, I'm not really on the space station, but why not? If when you work remote, you can pretend you're anywhere in the world. So I have fun with this.
The beauty of it is that you really can work from pretty much anywhere in the world as long as you take the right precautions.
Yes.
What's made it easy for you working remote? What's been your big challenge going remote personally, and then what have you done to overcome that and make it successful?
I think staying on a schedule is important. It's easy to wake up and maybe not get all dressed up or all makeup up, it's because you're just home. But I think trying to maintain some sort of normality is important, even if you're home. In terms of the home office, so people have some challenges. Not everyone has a spare room where they could have a home office. I'm lucky that I don't even, this room wasn't even an office. It was my exercise room, VR room, whatever, but now it's my office too, which is fine. But even if someone doesn't have a room they can dedicate to being an office, they should at least try to come up with some space in their house, even if it's just in a corner, a little desk somewhere that they know that's their office, and that the rest of the family learns to respect their space and their privacy when they're working.
Now you have a spouse, you have pets. How's that interaction?
So at the beginning, I think, you kind of have to train your family a little bit at the very beginning, because now you're home, they think they can just come in and ask you questions or start talking to you or hey, want to do this, want to do that. So maybe at the beginning, they don't understand that that you're working. So, but that wasn't a huge challenge. I mean, once, it's like, I'm sorry, I'll, I have to maintain the same schedule that I had before, and we'll do this later. Or in some ways it makes things easier, because it's actually easier if they do have a quick question to just pop in and ask you than have to call you, and maybe you have to step out of your office to take a personal call. So in a way, it's actually a little faster and easier if you have to have a quick conversation.
Yeah, that definitely helps. I know that some employees, if their kid's sick, it's been a lot easier for them to attend to their kid. Their spouse hasn't had to stay home because they're home. Now, granted, their schedule, they need a little more flexibility in your schedule in that case. But the communication, especially with teams, is really handy there, right? I know within our teams, you created a separate channel and kind of broke things out for that specific purpose.
Right. So we have a support channel for the support team specifically to discuss anything that the entire team needs to be made aware of. And then we can also set up impromptu, short little groups with 2 or 3 people if we need to hash out an issue together. Plus we have company-wide channels. We have channels just for fun, for posting something funny, like a joke or a meme or whatever. But that's what helps. All that is what kind of helps the team still maintain a form of communication. Another thing that's different, because you asked about the challenges, is when we were working from an office, if you needed to train somebody, I mean, you could walk over to their desk and sit down with them, or have them come over to yours. You can't do that anymore. But really, with the way screen sharing works now, I actually like it better, because not only can you share your screen and explain and train, you can record the session while you're doing it. So now they have something they can refer back to you, or you can leverage that recording for someone else to look at. So there's actually a lot of advantages in using these tools.
When you're on the phone with a customer and the dog barks, the doorbell rings, or your husband barges in, how's that interaction?
So for me, it's not so much of an issue, because I close my door when I'm working, but I can understand that not everyone has that possibility. One thing, though, I did notice even before this, it has become common for a lot of people to work partially from home, telecommute. Maybe not every day they go to the office. So maybe 5 years ago, it might have been strange to say, I'm working remote today, or I'm working from home today, but it was already starting to become more commonplace lately. And to be honest, I think what's happening right now is actually going to set precedents for more telecommuting, because there's so many advantages to it. I mean, think of all the bad weather we have around the country sometimes. Or like a hurricane or floods or things like that, where people just can't get into the office. Or why should someone come into the office if they think they're coming down with a cold, right? Because that's when you're most contagious. So they might not, they might call out sick once they're really sick, but why even take a chance if you think you're coming down with a cold to get everybody else sick? So if it's easy to work from home and you have the same security, the same tools, why not? So I think we're going to see that trend of more telecommuting after this is all over as well.
I think you're right. I used to have this mentality of, if you're not dying, you can still work and come in the office. And then it took a while. It took probably 10 years for the team to beat it into me that, Jess, when you come in the office and you're sick, you're just infecting the rest of the company, and everyone else is going to get sick, and we're going to be short-staffed for weeks, because it's going to go from every single person. And I actually watched it one time go from every single person on the team. And that was kind of the light bulb moment for me. But what I also found is that since we use a VoIP phone system and with remote desktop and everything else, I didn't need to come in the office anymore. And I could still be, if I'm not dead, I can still work. I could work, and I could actually take better care of myself, because I could work for a couple hours and I could take a nap. And I could work for a couple hours and I could take a nap. I ended up getting healthier faster, and getting sick had less of an impact on me. So it actually worked out really well.
And for me, like other benefits just to health in general, all this extra time we're saving that we're not commuting to the office, driving back and forth. That's a great time to just do something else, work out. I mean, I worked out this morning before work and I feel great. It's something I didn't have time for before because I had to drive into work. So
yeah, that's a fantastic point, Natalie. Natalie, what else do you think business owners might struggle with?
So I think they're going to have to change their policies in general, just because of the changes. Their current policies probably don't cover a lot of the telecommuting challenges. So they'll have to look at what they currently have and see what they can add in there. And it's also going to depend on what services they end up adding on in terms of making sure that their employees are connecting in a secure manner and staying secure. But that's definitely a consideration. Same thing with disaster recovery plans. I mean, right? Nobody planned for a pandemic, so most people that did have some kind of DR plan, especially along the lines of moving to an alternate site. Well, I was moving everybody to an alternate site. That's not what this is. We're trying to keep everyone separate right now. So I think that should come into consideration in the future too. And I don't think this is going to be the last pandemic. I mean, it's, it took everyone by surprise, but I could see this happening again in the future.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this is something that it's going to really have an impact. If your business if someone isn't sick, if you're not, in an area where it's likely to happen, maybe you're a little more remote, this is a great opportunity to kind of test things out and get prepared for that, for when it may hit you.
Right.
For us, we started work from home Fridays as a way to kind of train the team and get up to speed for when there was a hurricane. It proved extremely valuable. A couple of times that we were impacted by a hurricane, we were able to support our customers without missing a step one bit.
Yeah.
And so for us, this week and, the next few weeks, really it's business like normal in a lot of ways. It's really not any different for us.
Right.
We are seeing a lot of our customers are going to be impacted and are going to struggle. A lot of the industries we service definitely are going to struggle, but we're going to work with them. We're going to make it through it.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else you think we should add or we should talk about?
I mean, I think over time we'll probably want to make more videos like this as we see more challenges coming into the workplace. And we will do that, and we'll bring that information out to everybody.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Nathalie, I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. I hope everything's going well there at Space Station Visor, and it's certainly going well here. I'm enjoying having the family home actually right now. I'm a little concerned about the kids and what's going on with the schools and the way they're responding, but I know that, our leaders are going to do a good job there. And
Yep.
So I'm excited by that. I do want to encourage everyone to go to appliedeye.net/COVID-19 and take a look at those resources. We've got some templates going up today around telecommuting and some information on how the Florida State is offering disaster loans and what you need to do for your business to take advantage of that. So we'll be posting that as well. Nathalie, thank you again for taking the time.
Thank you, Jess.